Pixel 8 lineup has been the best phone for the money for most people for many years. When someone asks me what phone should I buy, I can usually point them to the A line for the Pixel. Now it's time to take a look at the newest version, which is the Pixel 8a, and to see if I still feel this way. The Google Pixel 8a is priced at $499 for the 128 variant, and it's $560 for the 256GB variant. Now, Google does push their cloud services a lot, and that's why you see such small storage. You can't even get this in a 512. But if you're a basic user who don't install a lot of games and all you do is take pictures, you really don't do video, and honestly, I do think you can get away with the 128. You may have to add a little bit of cloud storage for like $3 a month, but I don't think you need to go 256. This phone does come in 4 colors. We have Aloe, Bay, Obsidian, and Porcelain. In the hand, this phone does remind me of older phones since it's smaller at only 6.1 inches. It also has these big bezels around the phone that I don't hate. I don't expect it to be as sleek as the Pixel 8 Pro or any flagship phones. I think there is something charming about a smaller phone that you can use with one hand. And I think a lot of people are getting big phone fatigue, and it's just really nice to be able to have a phone that you can actually use with one hand. Now up front, we have our 13 megapixel camera, and of course, we'll talk about camera later in the video. We also have a fingerprint scanner, which actually, in my opinion, it's pretty fast to activate. Lately, I've been seeing these pretty slow fingerprint scanners on these cheaper phones, but actually, this one is pretty fast. You can also register your face to unlock the phone. There's always a debate about security when it comes to face unlock, so this is more of a convenience factor, not a security factor. This screen is an OLED display, and I think it's very good. Most phones are very comparable these days, and any differences would be in brightness and also nitpicking over colors. It does not get as bright as higher end phones, so outdoor visibility will be a little bit limited compared to those phones. But watching videos on YouTube in my house and also just outside or Amazon Prime, then this phone does look really good. I was actually just finishing up an episode of The Boys, and I watched it on this phone, and I wasn't thinking about this is a budget phone. I was just enjoying it and watching it, and it wasn't any difference outside the size than a different phone that I would have. On the back, we have our Pixel Bar, which houses our 64 megapixel and 13 megapixel ultra wide cameras. And then we have our 4,492 milliamp battery, which should be good enough for a full day. Now on the bottom, we do have 2 speaker grills, but only one speaker grill is a speaker, and the other one is for aesthetics. And the earpiece is actually the other speaker. I don't think the speakers on this phone sound great by any means, but for a phone that's $500, I think these sound okay. This phone is using Google's Tensor G3 chip. And now this is the 3rd time we've seen this chip. First we saw it on the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. So this actually means we have a high-end chip that's inside of Google's most expensive phones right now. This chip is definitely designed with AI in mind. It's very AI heavy chip, but it still performs well. And I don't think it actually holds it back in performance at all. Now, what does hold it back a little bit is that this phone only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, I hate saying the word only, but since this is once again, a $500 phone, we need to definitely keep that in mind. Now, this phone is not designed for a power user, but any app you want to run on this phone, you shouldn't have an issue at all. If you want a game, it won't give you any issues either. You may not have the highest frames per second in a game like Battle-Strike or Call of Duty Mobile, but what you will get is a phone capable of doing it. May not be the prettiest, may not be the smoothest, but it can definitely do it. Obviously, with this phone being a Pixel, it's going to run Android 14, and Google did promise us 7 years of OS updates. So in my opinion, I think this phone will outlive the hardware. Not saying the hardware is bad, but I'm just saying you have support for the life of this phone and beyond. Now this phone does run Pixel's version of Android and all the AI goodness that is baked in. So yeah, what are the AI goodies? That could be a full video on its own. Now, Google didn't announce anything that will be available exclusively on this phone at launch, and I've demoed everything that's available before in other videos too, but I'll talk about a couple of things that I really like. You can have it call and wait on hold for you if you're calling a business. Then it lets you know when someone picks up the phone. Or if you call a number that has a phone tree, you don't have to wait and listen. Also, we have call screening, which is something I love to use personally. And once you get used to these tools, it's hard to stop using them, to be honest. And then in photos, we have even more AI stuff. We have Magic Editor, which is like next level photo editing. You can move objects, change colors, you can move things. You can do a lot of things on a phone. It's like you have Photoshop using AI. Best Take, you have a series of photos, and if you're taking pictures of kids, then they're making goofy faces. You can't get them all in the same picture. You just pick a face from each photo and you combine them to make one good photo. We have Top Shot, Real Tone, and the list goes on and on. I'm not glossing over it because it's not good, but it's what we've seen for a bit from Google. And none of that is inherently new at this point. And you know, more phone companies are adding these things into their phones, and Google is still in the lead, and I'm interested to see what the next version of this is actually going to look like. You know, staying on camera, the specs are not what's important. It's more so the software. And the 64 megapixel uses the whole sensor, so your images are actually not 64, they're in 16 megapixels. But what this does for you, it lets you get a 2x zoom too. So although you have 2 lenses, it actually looks like you have 3 lenses. You have 1x, 2x, and then you have ultra wide. So looking at camera samples, this is a Pixel camera through and through, and without comparing it pixel by pixel, if you will, to the 8 or 8 Pro, you definitely won't see a difference, which is a good thing. It's just as sharp as ever, just as clean as ever. The colors pop out just as good. The skin tones are just as good. At night, night sight is pretty good, but it's noticeably not as clear as the Pixel 8 Pro, but it's still pretty good and very passable. Video is still lacking on this phone, giving you limited shooting modes. You won't be using this footage to make a movie, but for social media or sending to friends, yeah, it's fine. This is the front-facing camera on the Pixel 8a. Let me know what you think. Let me know how it sounds. I have it on 4K, 4K 60. There is 1080p as well, but I always crank it up to 4K to kind of get the best quality out of it. So let me know what you think. Now, battery life is still a little bit too early to do a complete deep dive as this phone just came out, but I'm sure it'll be just like the 7a as the battery is relatively the same. So I would say for a lighter day, you could definitely get full battery, but if you're gonna be stepping out for the night, you do need to definitely plug it in to make sure you make it through that night. It does charge at 18 watts, and you do have 7.5 watts for wireless charging. So wired, around an hour or so gets you a full battery. Also, there is no charger in the box. That is a separate purchase. All in all, this is the Pixel XA. When I say XA, I mean 7A, 8A, 6A. I mean, they're all pretty much the same. They're very consistent. And in my opinion, I think this is just a hardware vehicle to get Google's AI in your hand cheapest as possible. If that person who is that perfect user who doesn't do much with their phone and just wants a solid camera and good software experience, what phone should I buy? The Pixel 8a. I'm gonna recommend it once again. It's boring, consistent, but if you are interested in the Pixel 8 Pro, I have a good review on that, and I want you to check it out. Kevin the Tech Ninja, take care.